All right, all right. Hey guys, it's Bruce. Welcome to ConvoCourses podcast, and I've got another one with my man, the myth, the legend, Robert Rodriguez. And I want to honestly talk about like the job market because I get a lot of questions about it. And my mission here is to help people. Our mission here is to help you guys to level up and to enjoy the benefits of this awesome career path. It's been a blessing to me. And I thought we start off, Rob, with our own journey, our personal journey of how we actually got into IT, because that the best way is for us to tell people how we got here, and then maybe they can kind of emulate that, and then we can get into like the current job market and how they can do it now. And I'll start off with you, Rob.
Yeah, so I appreciate the intro. The journey getting in was not easy. I think I was maybe 11, 10 or 11 when I got my first computer, and
Wow.
it just made sense to me. And I knew this is what I want to do when I grow up. Now, at that time, there wasn't such a thing as like an IT administrator or network architect or not even cloud. Cybersecurity wasn't even a word. So I didn't know what I was in for when I decided I wanted to do this thing. When I was about 16, I decided to try to get a job, and of course, I started in fast food like most people do. Eventually, I wound up at Texas A&M at the veterinary clinic, and one of the jobs they had me do was data entry, and it turns out I was really good at it. My boss would take several months to enter data, and a lot of it was repetitive because of my self-learned experience with computers. I knew about the secret hotkey combo of Control C and Control V. And so when I started showing him these things, he's like, that's too much for me. But do you mind doing this entry? So it took me about 2 weeks to do the data entry. And I became his computer guy from that moment on, which was great. And I'm like, great, maybe I can get a job here in computers. Well, in that section, there wasn't such a role. I was just selling, stuff for large animals. But I talked to my boss about it, and he said, let me introduce you to some of the guys that work in the computer department here on campus. And he introduced me, and it was the first time I got to interact with what has become the hallmark of most desktop administrator. The old crabby guy with the big glasses and who thinks he's smarter than you or doesn't want to acknowledge that you know anything. He just assumes you're dumb.
Right.
So if you've ever run into that type of guy, that was my first experience with some people that were supposed to be like these, really smart computer people, but they didn't even know the basics of copy and paste because we talked about it. So they were just not willing to hear me out. It felt like they were resistant to let me in, and I felt so frustrated because I really wanted to get into this job market. So I said, okay, maybe not here, but I'm going to start looking around. So, my dad helped me find one of his customers who worked a lot with computers, and he's like, hey, what if you guys like take a look at my son? Maybe you can bring him on as an intern. So they brought me in. I remember typing in my resume with like my fast food experience and my vet job selling dog food basically. And 16 years old, right?
16.
So I gave them my resume and they're like, "Oh, that's cute. Yeah, you got a job. You're hired." So I was so excited. And I was like, "When do I got to be here?" They're like, "Monday at 12 p.m." So I showed up Monday. It was during the summer, so no school. So I showed up on Monday. I go into work and they said, "Okay, here are where the trash receptacles are. Here are the cleaning supplies. Keep the windows clean. Take out the trash. Make sure to wash the dishes that are left in the break room. Change these light bulbs." And I was completely like disillusioned about what the job was supposed to be. I thought it was going to have to do with computers. That's what we talked about.
Wow.
But they were like, well, we need somebody to kind of do these things around the office. You can be one of those guys. And so I was so frustrated. So I quit that job in like after 2 weeks. Think back about it now. Maybe it could have been a way to start networking with people and leverage myself into one of those roles. But I didn't have that mindset at 16. So I
Right.
gave up, moved on. So eventually, how did I finally break in? Well, after the next few years of trying to find places with computers, which is a really like new career field and nobody really knew what to expect from it, I couldn't
Right.
find anything. And so eventually a recruiter approached me to join the Marine Corps and we talked about computers. He's like, "We got a job field. You just have to score high enough on your ASVAB, and if you do, we'll get you in." And that's what happened. So my entry into this field was through the military where I finally got, some movement. But it was a few years of me trying at such a young age to find a place, and I felt just as frustrated as some people might feel today around finding a job in the industry. So I'll
Wow.
pause there, see what your experience was like.
Mine was also in the military, is where I started. My computer experience was in the military. And just to back up, so when I first went into the military, my uh, friend, close friend, like a brother to me, who we grew up, we know each other's moms, Trey, he comes back from the Marine Corps. And I was interested. I was like, "Hey Trey, man, like I'm thinking about going to the military. I'm going to the Marines because I was in the JROTC with the Marine Corps. So that's all I knew. I knew the rank. I knew the history of the Marine Corps, everything. I was so hardcore with it. And so he comes back from the Marine Corps, and I was like, "Hey, should I? I want to join. Like, what should I do?" And he says, "Okay, look." He broke all the branches of the military down to me. He's like, "I've been to all these people's bases. Go to the Air Force." Right, and here's why. He broke down every reason why I should go into the Air Force. And after he asked me like, what do you want to do? What do you want? I was like, computers. I want to do like something technical. He says, Air Force, man. So, and he was actually in the Marines as a programmer, and got out and got an IT job, and it's a badass guy, man. Maybe one day I'll have him on here. So anyway, so Trey had me go into the Air Force. I went to the Air Force, and my ASVAB scores were not good enough. I was not, which is crazy, but they were not good enough. So I was in the Air Force as a security forces, police. Security forces, security police, is what they call it when I first went in. And I did that for like 5 years. And then I just couldn't, it wasn't for me. Physical security was not for me. I knew I didn't have a future in it. And I was absolutely obsessed with computers. So the whole time I was in the Air Force as a weapons specialist, I had bought my own computer for the first time. I was taking it apart, putting it together, messing around with it. And I cross trained into, that's what we call it, cross trained into, you guys call it like cross rate, right? Marines
Yeah, cross train. Yeah.
cross train. Okay, well, I cross trained um, into computer operators. And what's funny about it is when I first asked my supervisor, I said, "Hey, I'm thinking about cross training into another career field." He's like, "You can't do it because we need police officers. We're low." And I'm like, damn. So I actually, with my weapon, when I was on duty on lunch, I went to the IT department on base and I started asking them questions about being a help desk guy. And they were breaking it all down to me. And initially I was like, I want to do like software engineering. I want to do that. And they said, well, software engineering is not here. That's on another side of the base. That's a whole nother branch, it's a whole nother part. I was like, well, what do you guys do? And he started breaking everything down to me and everything. And that opened my eyes. Like this field is pretty big. So I went to, they had like a career specialist on base, and I asked them. I said, "Hey, I want to cross train from being a cop to doing computers. Like, can I do that?" He's like, "Yeah, hell yeah." He says, "We need computer guys." I said, "My supervisor told me that I can't cross train because they need people to do security police." And he said, "Well, they do need people to do security police, but they need computer operators even more. So that
Hmm.
we're in way more demand. We really need people to do it. So go ahead and do it." I said, "Well, my ASVAB scores aren't good enough." He says, "Retake it." I went and retook it and did really, really well on it. And so I was able to cross train and then started getting into computers. Like they taught us Linux, they taught us Windows, how to install them, how to secure them, everything. And then in the Air Force, I did. I don't know, I was a help desk guy for a while. I did network engineering for a bit. I did risk. I started doing, like, we didn't call it risk management framework. It was GRC stuff in the Air Force, and that's how I started doing computer stuff. So whatever field you're in, like, you might be able to do a lateral change with any organization you're in. I mean, not it probably doesn't work with every organization, but there's a lot of organizations that might allow you to do a lateral change to IT. So that's my story. How
So
did you?
basically, you started talking to people. They gave you some hints and pointers on where to go and direction, and you just took the action and ended up there.
That's right. I didn't give up. Like, even when my supervisor told me, no, you can't, I was like, well, maybe there's another way, because I really wanted to. I wanted to stay. I liked the Air Force when I was in. I didn't. I knew that's what I wanted to do at the time, but I knew a weapon specialist wasn't for me. Being a cop wasn't my thing. And shout out to all the police officers. That's a hard ass job, but I never. It's the hardest job to this day, hardest job I've ever done. It's just very difficult, very stressful. Now, Rob, how did you level up? Like, we already talked about how you actually got in. Now that you are right now, for those who don't know, Rob Rodriguez is a cloud architect. I worked with him as a SOC analyst. The dude is, you have a special brilliance for this field. It's amazing. How did you level up from being a 17-year-old going into the Marines at 18, 19 years old, and then doing IT? Like, what was the process of you leveling up after that?
That's a great question. I think if I had to simplify it, one is I was always trying to figure out what everybody else knew that I didn't. So remember, I was
Mm,
about 10 or 11 when I got my first computer, and I was so hungry for more information around it. Just so passionate about computers and that world in general. So
mm-hmm,
I was so curious. And when I got stationed to my first duty station, I was the lowest rank. There was like 12 other dudes of various ranks that were senior to me, and I thought these guys know everything. That was my perception coming in.
right,
And
right, right.
so I thought I got to catch up. So the first thing I did is I started looking at all the tech manuals. And so you can see behind me, I still to this day read like physical books. And I do read these books some of them are references for some obscure knowledge that you can't find anywhere. And others I actually do read to keep myself up to date. So reading books is one way. Another is magazines. So I don't have any here. Oh yeah, here we go. So just a couple of magazines here. So a couple that I like. One is Admin Network and Security, and this is not a
Mm,
promotion. It's just this is going to have like really good technical knowledge, and I love technology in general. We'll come back to that. The
right.
other that I like to get is Linux. So you mentioned Linux. Linux
Mm-hmm.
is the foundation and basis for most of our major
Yes.
platforms throughout the world, whether it's for the airlines or for the hospitals or
ATMs,
the
firewalls,
the
routers,
entire cloud.
switches,
Yes,
your phone.
exactly. The entire
Yep.
internet, the entire cloud, it's all based off of some variety or variation of Linux. And so knowing Linux is really a game changer no matter what your job is.
Absolutely.
If it's technical, Linux is going to help you level up.
Hmm.
The other thing that I do is, as a hobbyist, is something that wasn't accessible when I joined the Marine Corps, and that is knowledge. So I had to consume this through books and magazines, but it was so hard to figure out what was available. And now, today, we have the opposite problem. There's so much information
Right.
that it's hard to figure out what should I focus on. There's so much available.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so leveling up can be a little tricky. In fact, let me share my screen if I may.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Uh, select this screen here. So this is something that I just stumbled on recently on LinkedIn. Somebody put a link for this, and it's a cybersecurity career roadmap. So when you're looking at it, you have all these different categories for offensive, defensive, researcher, engineer. in basically a decision maker. And so that's what all of these really represent. And then you have like network pen tester, mobile pen tester, all the way to exploit developer. And
Now,
then you
Rob,
have,
I can't see your screen.
oh,
Can
you
you
can't?
share it
Okay.
to the stage?
How does it? Okay, it says stop screen. So let me try this again.
It's not allowing me to add it to the screen.
Let me try one more time.
Okay. I can see it in the lower column, but it's not allowing me to add it to the stage.
Okay, yeah, I don't think we're
Hang on,
sharing the
let me
screen to the
remove
stage then,
move
because it's
on.
definitely sharing the screen. But if it's not on the stage, that's okay. Here's what I'll do. Let me see if I can add the PDF to here. I'll add the PDF, and then
Okay.
if you can, share it with
Yeah,
your
sure.
audience. Okay, so but basically, you find out there's all kinds of different categories, and for me, I started in desktop, then server, and then networking, and so that was a natural progression. Help desk was part of that in that journey. I loved networking. And so I started to do things like, how do I up level here? So that's where certifications come into play. And so this is where a
There we go.
certification can, okay, yeah, perfect. This is where certification can be useful. Let me go ahead and flip through this one here. Now, when I change the screen, can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
All right.
Perfect.
And all right, I don't know if everyone can see. This is kind of small, but you can kind of get a sense of like all the different categories and roles that are out there. There's a lot. So blue is like where you and I were focused on when we met. We're on the
Hmm.
blue side of the house, protected against folks in the red. So we were probably blue green side of the house, I would say. Yeah, because you see SOC on the left, second
Right.
column
Yep.
in the middle. So Security Operations Center. So yeah, we were blue and green because on the far right, cyber threat analyst, that was something else we did, cyber operations. So that's a lot of the stuff that we did. So how do you up level from these things? So certifications is one way to do that because the objective is not the certification. The objective is the knowledge.
That's right.
And if you learn the knowledge, passing the certification is just a natural consequence. So you're curious, like, how can I learn more? The other thing that I do, let me go ahead and we can stop sharing that one. The other thing that I do is a lot of YouTube, a lot of Google, a lot of YouTube, tons of YouTube. There's so much out there. So I always look for like different projects that I can use to just learn something new. I learned about Docker containers maybe 3 years ago because someone introduced the concept of a container and I just could not wrap my head around it. I was so used to like hardware appliances and maybe virtual machines.
Right.
I couldn't understand what a Docker container was. And then I went through a bunch of YouTube training. I did some courses on Udemy and some other places, but finally I was like, okay, I understand what it is. Now, what are some projects I can do to get better at it?
Wow.
And there are so many projects like GitHub has what's called the
Yes.
awesome self-hosted project or awesome open source.
Hmm.
And there's so many things that are cool projects that you can do for yourself and learn along the way, but actually have something that's useful. A lot of people like to host like media content. Well, there's a project for that. You can build your own, host your own YouTube like interface and everything. It's
Yes.
so cool. So those are some of the ways that I do it. And then, of course, recently with I did the same thing. I'm like, what's this AI stuff about? And there were courses that were like 2 or 3 hours long. I'm like, that's not for me. I need like a digestible, like really what can you do with it? I wanted to see what is possible, what can inspire me. So I
Yes.
found a few videos that did that. And I thought, I could do that. I wonder how hard it is. So I just built my own AI server, and it was a challenge, especially when it came to NVIDIA drivers on Linux. That was a challenge. But through those challenges and struggles is growth,
Yes.
and you learn something different. You learn something new. Now I can do it relatively quickly without the same, week or two struggle. I can do this same day, probably in an hour. So I can build these things, and then I can start to train the AI models or LLMs and have my own localized AI. I can have it surf the web. I can have it produce images. I can even talk to it and have it speak in
Damn.
return. Those are all things you can do that are free, 100% free. These are projects you can go look at. And so those are the things that I do to up level. Now, the reason it matters, like especially with cloud security, is as I'm learning all these things, I'm also looking at it from a risk perspective. How do attackers leverage this? And so having that mindset, I can naturally figure out, oh, maybe we have something that blocks against that. That would be an interesting conversation. Like, how do you know that you have a bunch of AI bots stealing all your data and harvesting all
Right.
your data from websites? Can we do something about it? The answer is yes. How do you know that you have AI that's biased and is providing like really bad information that's harmful? Can you do anything about it? The answer is yes.
Right.
So as you're learning and doing these things, you bring that into work. These ideas get a lot of attention. Eventually, people can't help. It's undeniable. Like they have to recognize like the effort you're putting in, the passion. People will naturally be drawn to it, and opportunities will naturally open up. So that's I know it's a long-winded answer, but like how to up level starts with just seeking knowledge at the end of the day. It's like being
Yes.
curious, seeking knowledge, putting in the time and effort to learn something new and growing. And like we actually worked with a guy in Kuwait who saw this as just a job, and that's okay. Not everyone's going to be passionate about it. But he also shared with me he was like one of the lowest paid on the team and he didn't want to do anything outside of hours, but like those were things preventing him from growing. And because he didn't grow, it's hard to really negotiate yourself a larger salary when your perceived value is like you're very junior, you don't really know that much, I can't depend on you. And
Yeah.
it's not that he was trying to be that guy, he just didn't understand this is the path to growth. So having that thirst for knowledge, doing something new even though it's on your own time, it doesn't have to be all weekend, just spend an hour or two, just dedicate this to yourself as a hobby to learn something new, and it'll naturally leak into your work, which will naturally open up opportunities.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on what you said, so when I went to Kuwait, I did not know SOC analyst work. I was not a SOC analyst guy. I knew I had the foundations. I had pretty solid networking background. I knew the basics of security best practices, because I'd been doing risk management framework and all these different standards and frameworks for a while. I knew Linux. I knew the basics, but I wasn't a SOC analyst guy. But I was super hungry to learn more. And then when I learned it, I was like, "Oh my, this is it right here." I was on fire. So I would do all these little projects. I would try all these little different things. When I was there as a SOC analyst, I actually was so hungry that I made like a lab, and I made mistakes, man. I was like a child, like in like a little box, and I was like, oh man, I got to do this and that. That's the thing. You can't be afraid to make mistakes, right? But I kept going, and then I became a SIEM engineer. There was a role opened up for a SIEM engineer, and they were like, yeah, we'll show you how to do this. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do it. And so then I started doing that, and same thing. I had the same attitude like Rob is talking about, like being hungry for knowledge, being inquisitive, wanting to learn more, getting your hands dirty. And every time, what I've noticed is a pattern. Every time I've gotten hands on with something and I got that deep into it where I was making my own projects or messing around with the tool myself and not just book knowledge, I always level up. And that's exactly what happened with this cloud thing. I started on my own doing like reaching out to people with like Rob or like Professor Black Ops and asking like the people who are already doing AWS or already doing cloud stuff, how do you do this? Like, what do you do? What's your focus here? I start asking, and then I start getting hands on, messing around with it myself. And then I put those projects and stuff and that skill set on my resume, because if you know how to do it, if you're familiar with it, you should put it on there. If you have knowledge of it, you should put it on there. If you've done those things, you should put it on there. And that's how I was able to have been able to level up over and over again throughout my career. If I wanted to change a little of part of my path or something, it's been awesome. I guess the next thing is setbacks. Have you, Rob, had setbacks and failures throughout your career, and what kept you going?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. So as I reflect on my career, the way I quantify success is how how did I make an impact? How did I make a difference? Did I help
Wow.
someone? So the job is the job, and I'm passionate about it. And if I'm able to like provide protection, that is one way you can measure. Like, for example, in the Marine Corps, I deployed to Iraq, and I was responsible for the cybersecurity for the entire theater, more than 40,000 uniformed people,
Wow.
plus whatever contractors were out there. So that's no small thing in a war theater, in a war zone,
Yeah.
because literally people's lives are
Yes.
affected by how effective you are at cybersecurity. So no small thing. So that's one way, but also it's not just about the macro version, but the micro as well. Like there were people that I met who were not passionate about cybersecurity. But then after we got a chance to connect and I tell them my story and I show them how they can do things for themselves too, they start to get that excitement and then they become passionate about cybersecurity. And we met some people like this in Kuwait where there was no passion. And then later, they all go on to do great things at the World Health Organization or Google or some
Yeah.
three-letter agency.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud to be part of that journey.
Yeah.
And in some cases, maybe ignite that first step. So that's how I look at it. So as far as like failures in my own journey, I don't know that I have too many failures because I just don't think of it in terms that way. But
Yes.
there was one role where I felt like the job was very lucrative. It was a great opportunity, made a lot of money, but I was not happy. I found that in that role, I was, doing a lot of things that make good business decisions, but I didn't feel like I had the capacity to help anyone. And I didn't feel like I was making a difference. And so I eventually decided to step away from that role. And I was torn about it because I worked with amazing people at an
Yeah.
amazing company. But I just felt so torn because I didn't feel like I was part of making a difference. I was just part of, I was a gear in this great machine making money. And that's fine, but it wasn't for me.
I hear you.
So I felt like in that case, I don't really consider it a failure. I wasn't my best and I wanted to do better. And that's why I moved away from that role.
Man, your mindset is incredible, man. I that's incredible. I love that about you, man. That mindset is awesome. It's incredible.
You can't fail if you don't believe in failure.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about current challenges in 2025, if any. Um, what are do you see any challenge? Let me start there. Do you see any challenges with 2025 as far as the job market?
Yeah, AI is obviously a huge one. Um, because like that's the whole notion that AI is coming for our jobs. And I think we talked about this on a previous stream.
We
It,
touched on
it,
it.
it
Yeah.
can, it can. I think in some cases it will, like especially if you're in a development job or any type of job that there's a lot of manual typing and there's prone to human error. You're likely to see AI take a lot of that off your plate. But do I think it's going to completely replace everyone, like all humans? Definitely not. I think it's more of a tool. And if you learn how to use this tool, you're likely to be one of the ones that continue to work in that job, that type of job. And those who don't use this tool, that's okay. You'll find a different way to continue to provide, to make a difference in the IT community, but it won't be in that role. Like, so let's say you're a developer and you just don't know how to use AI. That's okay. There's other roles. GRC is a great one, and we're always going to need people for a role like GRC. You need people to manually go through and double check and verify and ask the questions, and AI is just not there. So that's one big one. The other is the remote workforce. Ever since COVID, there's been this concept of remote workforce, and man, it has caused such a pain for companies
Yeah.
and also for employees alike. On one hand, companies they've invested in long-term leases for office space, and it's not being used. So they're not getting any value from those leases, and it might be costly to break out of them. So And also for insecure leaders, they may just want to micromanage everyone, so they'll want everybody in the office. But more likely, it's just that the company's invested in this lease and they
Right.
just want to get value from it, and that's understandable. But then, from an employee perspective, like on a personal perspective, since COVID, I've built this whole life around my wife, my life. I might take my kid to school in the morning. I have a lot more time to do that because I'm working from home. I take my kid to school 2 miles away, come back, and I'm ready to get to work. I have the equipment I need, my personal equipment, my monitors. I have all the real estate that I need. I have a better quality camera. I have the peace and quiet because in an office there's a lot of background chatter and it's
Yes.
really hard to have conversations with customers. So like I see both sides of the coin, but it causes this dynamic. So a lot of companies are saying, okay, well, let's find a hybrid approach. I think let's meet in the middle. And while they're doing that, they're hiring talent that's outside of the local environment. So if you're in Atlanta, let's say, instead of just hiring out of Atlanta, you open up the pool to in the entire United States or possibly the entire globe if you're a global company. And so by doing that, you open up the job requisition to this massive audience. And
Right.
when you do, and especially in a job market where AI is starting to take over jobs, or there's fears, or there's just difficulty getting into the industry, you might have tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people looking for
Applying
a
for
role
that one
pursuit.
job.
Yeah. And so now you get bombarded. And there's other things too. Like there's some people that are just blindly sending out their AI bot. Good on you that you figured out how to do it. But shame on you for not being more specific, right? Target the jobs you want and use your
Yes.
AI bots to automatically fill those out. Good. But don't just blanket shotgun blast hoping to get
Yeah.
something. That's just lazy approach. And personally, if I'm hiring, I would feel like you were very rude to all the other candidates, and that might
Right.
count against you. So, but some people might do that. The thing that my point is, there's a larger pool applying for the same role. And then finally, there's a lot of companies that are just trying to collect data. So this was recent articles that have been coming out accusing companies of putting out ghost jobs. These are jobs they have no
Yeah.
intention to fill,
Right.
but they want to collect data and train their own AI so they can automate like
Is that what they're doing?
the process of hiring.
That what they're doing?
Yeah.
Speaking of what you said about the remote jobs, there was some. I don't know if you heard about this. There was a dude in this Indian dude. I don't know if he's American or from India, but this dude applied for a whole bunch of remote jobs. And he did like 7 to 10 jobs all at once, which is not possible, right? He was a programmer and signed up for. I mean, I think it's okay to do it's called overemployment if you can handle it. If you can do one part-time, one full-time or something like that where the company knows about it. There's no ethical conflicts of interest or anything like that. I don't see anything wrong with that. This dude, he had like 5 or 6 jobs and then he got caught because he wasn't doing all the work. And yeah, I mean, it was a huge scandal where all it does is poke holes in people who want to legitimately work, do remote work, and it just sucks.
Oh, you mean like the overworking?
Yes,
Yeah,
overemployment.
overemployment. Yeah. I have mixed feelings about that because you know, and unless you're like on an hourly wage, as long as you're getting your job done and you're dependable, but you have two or three jobs, like honestly, I don't see the problem with that. If it was with a competitor or something like that, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
There's liabilities involved, but like, what's the difference? Like, when I worked fast food, I worked at Whataburger and I also worked at Burger King. I had two jobs because like you had to like I was making 4.25 an hour. Like that's not a lot of
Yeah.
you know? And so a lot of these jobs, they pay bottom dollar
Yes,
because,
true.
there's a lot of like, difference of economies globally. And
Yeah.
so companies have learned throughout this pandemic that they can outsource. So they outsource to a country like India where the economy is dramatically different than the U.S. So the dollar is a lot stronger. So they're paying effectively like a fraction of the cost that it would to hire local.
Yes.
But then you have the dilemma, like you're trying to hire local people at the same rate or close to that lower rate. What choice do they have? And plus, with the economy and inflation, what choice do people have but to work multiple jobs? So I do
Yeah.
have mixed
True.
feelings. On the other side, like as someone who has represented a company as an employer, I do understand, like, I don't know if I trust you to have our interest in, like, who do you prioritize when I need you? I
Yeah.
need to know I can depend on you. And also, like, I don't want you to use stuff I'm paying for to help someone else's business. I don't think
Yes.
that's fair. So I could see both sides of the coin here. But it's really like it depends on like what your morals and ethics are. Me
I
personally,
agree.
I wouldn't do that like in a white collar job. If you're making close to six figures, I would say that's bad form in bad taste. In this industry, it's all about networking, and your reputation goes a long
Yes.
way. So if you have a brand that says you're the kind of person that finds shortcuts and you're lazy and you cheat, you're
Yeah.
gonna have a bad reputation. It's gonna be hard to find like a really good job.
Especially in cybersecurity because it's a small pool and we all kind of know each other. I mean, you can't burn bridges in this one. So, in this field, maybe as the guy was a software engineer, so maybe in that one it's different, but in cybersecurity, it's a pretty small. You're gonna run into the same people here and there because we kind of it's not many of us comparatively to some other fields. I also wanted to talk about. You mentioned actually the last time we talked, you mentioned something about ATS style resumes. Did you have like an issue with those, or maybe it was because people are just firing off those resumes to every place, and it's getting
Yeah,
kind of ridiculous?
I don't know if you noticed. I just noticed like when you said ATS, I took a deep breath and let it out because it's a source of anxiety for me.
All right, I want to hear this.
And I'm sure it's a source of anxiety for a lot of people. Basically, like, so first of all, I've seen your videos where you break out like how to, create a resume that's ATS friendly, and that's great. Not many people do that, but I mean, if I have a straightforward resume, why do I need to like check all these boxes to go through this automation system? I feel it's ridiculous. True, there should be standards, and I'm a firm believer in having standards, but also a firm believer in common sense. And ATS is not always common sense. In fact, a lot of times I feel like because of ATS and sometimes their, you know, difficult and very enigmatic standards, I feel that they weed out qualified candidates that they otherwise would want to hire, the ideal candidate, just because of some small issue with the ATS. And I feel like that's so dumb. On the other hand, I do see, like we were just talking about, like having, thousands of people apply for that one job. That is where an ATS could come in handy. So I also see that side. So how would I do this? Well, one, you do have to post the job. I would be really clear and specific about requirements. And this might give you some insights on why people say they need a college degree or certification, because they're trying to figure out like the ideal person that is curious enough about a job probably has a certification. And if they don't, I'll put or equivalent experience because we
Or
need to know that they have that experience. And, I might say this is where you must live in this region because we need to understand like what the market is and what to pay, and also time zones because that matters. Like there's a lot of factors that go into it. So I would be really specific in the criteria. I would evaluate the resumes personally, and this is a process that I've done and I will continue to do. I'll look at them personally. I'll have questions. If it seems like they might be a good fit, I have three piles, right? Might be a good
Mhm.
fit, I'll put them in the middle. If they seem like they're a great fit and they're an ideal candidate, I put them on the left in like top candidate. And if they seem like they don't really fit here, but they're just looking for, some, a foot in, in my case, I couldn't hire entry level people. These were just, the role was just too senior, and we couldn't
Yes.
afford to take on an entry level role. So I'd put them in this right side. And so by doing that, I now had three categories. So unqualified, and then we would send out an email sorry, you don't seem to have the qualifications at this time. Check out some of our other roles. And the ones that were possible, I'd go through and make a short list. We'd go through the interviews, and it was on first come, first serve. And then the top candidates, those were the ones that were hardest because a lot of times the top candidates don't fit your budgetary constraints for compensation.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't always get the top candidates because they're going to cost more. They're in high demand. So of
Yes.
course they're going to have a higher, salary requirement. So you're probably going to get someone from that middle pile, and that's usually how to go about it. I'm sorry, what was your question again?
ATS style
Oh
resumes.
yeah, there you go.
No, you're
Sorry.
you're on track. You said you would take the resumes and sort them out.
Yeah,
But I mean, you brought up some really great points, especially the one that sticks in my head is the one about remote work and having so much more competition in this market now. I have noticed that you go on LinkedIn and you see you bring up a job and then within a week, 100 more over 100 people have already applied for it because it's much easier to apply from, and people are applying from all over the world. And for those remote, especially for the remote positions all over the world, it's just getting filled up like that. And then you've got all these candidates, and then they've got to sort through all of those. You
yeah,
maybe you live in the local area in Austin or whatever, and you want to get a job there, but that job already has over 100 candidates. Meanwhile, you live down the street from this job, in that economy, but you're competing against people from all over the world, which is crazy. So that is definitely an issue. Another issue that I've noticed in my field, because I'm still working for the government, is the political change that has just happened. So now with Doge, they're have
yeah,
doing this shift where they start firing people and like moving stuff around, and I'm feeling that, so that's definitely been a factor in my industry. But in other industries, like in Fang, like with Google and Meta and all those guys, probably they're getting hit with AI. So it just seems like there's all these different market forces all happening at once. We live in this time where there's this rapid change, and I don't think it's going to slow down. I think the technology goes crazier. Um, we have to adapt. There's no other choice. And I don't think even when this administration goes like 4 years, whatever it is, at some point it changes, right? Another one comes in, and they're going to change everything else. They're going to change it again, and then we've got to adapt to it. So the only thing that we have, only tool, the main tool, I should say, that we have for this is just to adapt as the changes happen, because I don't believe it doesn't look like it's gonna slow down.
yeah.
And having been in this market, like having just switched to another job, like in the beginning, I'm seeing especially younger folks like, man, I can't get a job. I just got out of Harvard and I'm applying for jobs and I can't find any. I'm like, what are they talking about? And then I get in the field and I'm like, damn, it is harder. It is harder than it was a few years ago. And I'm wondering, like, what is
Uh,
going on?
You just said something that kind of prompted something that I'm seeing today. Um, so a kid coming out of Harvard, yeah, I think they're going to be okay. But I find like there's a lot of,
I think they're gonna
especially,
be okay.
I think they're going to be fine. Something tells me they'll be fine. Um, but like for like kids that do get a certification, like in the previous role, I was hiring for like really senior architects, and there was one kid, he was probably, I don't know, 23 or 24. He applied for the role, and I noticed his age. I'm like, wow, that's really young to be a senior architect. Like,
Yeah,
have you really lived life yet?
right.
And I'm like, let me take a look at his resume. So he had his AWS um, solutions architect professional
Wow.
certification, which is impressive. That's a difficult
Yeah,
one. You
it's
have to know what you're
impressive.
doing to get that. It's difficult to get. So, hats off for that. But he had no experience. And I think what happened is he saw the salary range for the role and said, well, I have the certification. That should get me the job. Or maybe he hoped that it would get him the job. So what I'm seeing is like a lot of younger guys go straight for like, I can do this really big senior role that pays lots of money, but they're not qualified. Not that they can't be, they haven't lived enough experience. They haven't really gone through some of the toughest challenges that you might go through, by the time you're 40. And it's not to like, do like age restrictions, but 20, 24, 25, you don't expect to be a VP of a global company at that age, unless
Right.
maybe you went to Harvard, going back to that. But like if you're someone who just got your AWS certification, going straight for the top, probably not the best move, because then I have to question everything and I'm not going to trust it. And there's reasons for that. It's not that you can't be the unicorn, maybe you are, but the
Yeah.
chances of me finding the unicorn are so astronomically low. I
Yeah.
don't want to take that chance. I'm going to go with someone who's got more measured experience, for the reason that they have that measured experience and it's consumable. And so I was just at a restaurant yesterday, and I'm a frequent goer to that restaurant, and I was talking with the GM.
Yeah.
He's 25 years old, and they have a director role that opened up, and he said that they had a guy who was a waiter at another restaurant. This waiter was, I think, 22 years old. He applied for the director role, and the management there, they were like, "Wow, that's really ballsy, going for a director role. We can't give that to you, but we'll be happy to give you a manager role. I think that's a good next step for you." So that guy is like, "No thanks, I don't want it. I'm just going to go somewhere. If I can't be a director, I'm going to stay a waiter." And so, but it's like, is this delusional? I think maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I have noticed that, like, in the among some influencers that I have watched, that there's, I think, you know what's happened is it's kind of like those travelers who, I make $1 million and I'm traveling to Thailand and shit, and I'm it's like, okay, how often, how many people can do that?
Yeah,
Like, I'm not saying that it's not real, but
that's
some
right.
of it's definitely not real.
Yeah,
But
nobody's saying you can't be go
it's
straight to being a director, but like there's got to be something pretty significant for that to
yes,
happen.
it's
Like,
rare, like, it's super rare. So in IT, the same thing applies. Like, you can't, not everybody is gonna come in and be a freaking polymath genius, building computers at age 9, and then suddenly they're making $200,000 at age 23. That just doesn't That's super rare. It's rarer than the lottery. Does it happen? Yeah, sure. Yeah, absolutely. But it's just super duper rare. So, a more measured approach to it that's going to get you there, no matter how much talent you have, is being methodical, creating a system that can compete with the entropy that we're living in. Right? Everything falls apart. Like, if you have a system in place that will get you there, it will beat talent. It will beat most talent every time. And so a measured approach would be to get the actual experience, like to do projects, start
that's it.
from, right. You know what I'm So start local, if you're really serious about this field, like, first of all, start for free, like, learn what you can from Udemy, from YouTube, that kind of thing, right? See if you even want to do this career, and then start off local. So, like, find a local position, something you can do locally, do local projects, start to dive slowly into IT. Watch people like, there's this real awesome network guy, Chuck Network. That
Yeah,
guy's freaking awesome. Like, people who are hands on, walk through these different projects and then build yourself up from there. Everybody's not gonna get a six-figure job right out the box. It's pretty rare. I'm not saying it's impossible. I've worked with guys who had little to no experience doing GRC work, and
yeah,
they were working right beside me. And I remember one guy he had a PhD in Egyptology, and he was a GRC guy. I mean, I'm like, what the, but it happen? Sure. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's improbable, you know.
yeah. I think in those cases where, like, I've seen some people get lucky, like young guys get lucky straight into a six-figure job. Good on you.
Yeah.
But like now you got to pull your weight. Like, I'm handling a lot of stuff on my own because I've been through the experience of learning how to handle difficult situations, and I don't mind like coaching and mentoring somebody, but like if you're making six figures, I got expectations on how you're going to handle your own business. I'm not going to
Yeah.
do your work for you. I'm sorry, I got my own workload. Like I
Yes.
need to trust that you can do yours. So how could someone theoretically, at a young age or even old age, like how could they go to like a really good solid role if they wanted to? So I think that's one of the things that I get a question on a lot. And so one of the stories that I like to tell, I don't know if I shared this already, but even for like the role that I'm in now, when I did my interview, um, I was coming from an executive role into a technical role as a solutions architect, cloud security architect,
Hmm.
and so one of the interviewers, a very very deeply technical person, brilliant man, uh, he let me know straight up. He's like, I don't know if you're going to be technical enough for this role. Like you're in an executive role, and that just doesn't make sense to me. I said, well, let's try it out, right? Let's do the interview. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And so he had this list of papers. So he had his glasses on, and he's like, okay, what is the difference between a next hop proxy and a transparent proxy? And I thought, well, damn. First question, I'm already eliminating myself. And then I had this realization. I thought, if I just answer all his questions, I'm never going to get a chance to show him that I am qualified for this role. All I'm going to do is just prove that I don't know what he knows. So I said, hey, you know, I've got the certifications that's listed in my resume. Happy to share the certificates. I do know this stuff. I've gone through your certification training as well. But instead of talking about these things, can I just show you my home lab? In my home lab, I have identity management, I have zero trust design, I have web access, reverse proxy. I've got this whole ecosystem, and I'd love to show you how it works and how I think your product protects stuff like this. And so he was a little skeptical. He's like, okay. So I shared my screen and I started sharing my home lab. Now, remember earlier I was talking about like all these free resources and containers and AI. Like I had gone through like all the weekends of putting in work to build up this lab, and
Wow.
now I got to show it off. And as
Wow.
I'm showing it off, like a few minutes into it, I see him do this. He has his papers here that he's going to interview his interview questions. Right? He has his papers. He puts them down, and then he takes his glasses off, and I knew we were done. We were good. So if you're going to come to an interview, especially if you're younger and you're trying to go for that higher salary range, nobody's saying you can't. Just don't come up and say, well, I've got training, because that doesn't mean anything to me. That just means you showed up to training. That doesn't tell me what you can do for me.
Yes.
Show up and show me something. Show me something that you're passionate about, a personal project that you're passionate about. You show me that, I'm a lot more impressed. And now I'm like, this guy can figure stuff out. I can rely on this guy. So just keep that in mind. You may not get the job still,
Yes.
but at least you're going to stand out. People are going to remember you. And this industry is all about networking. So
Yes.
put out your brand out there, and people are going to remember that.
Another thing, and I'll get some questions here on TikTok, and we'll get to those. Another thing is like there's a method when you're doing an interview called STAR method, where you, whenever they ask you the question, what you do is you tell them the situation. It's STAR, right? You're gonna tell them a situation that is similar to what they ask, right? So you can show them, hey, this is what I did in a real world situation. We had something similar to what you're asking me. And then the T is task. Say the task that you had to perform, and then the actions that you took to perform that task, and then the results. STAR method. If you go through that with any question that they ask, you're telling them, hey, look, I have transferable skills. I've done that before, and here's how I did it, and here's what the results are. And so you're showing them and it doesn't have to necessarily be a job. Like it could be, maybe you did a project in school. Maybe you, like Rob is saying, he showed his lab, says, look, I know how to do X, Y, and Z. Like, this is what I can do. I'm showing you exactly the work that I've done, and here's the results of it. Because they want to know that you're going to come into their company and be of value, and you're showing them, here's the situation, here's the task, I did these actions, here's the results, and you're demonstrating how that's a transferable skill. All right, let me see if there's some questions on Tick. I know I had at least one that I put in the pinned comments,
It's
and I'm not ignoring you guys. We've been talking for a bit. We're going to take some questions. This is a great opportunity to talk to a a cloud security architect, Rob Rodriguez, who's a brilliant dude. Um, Let me see. Okay, first question is, when I got my cyber, not a question. I'm not sure if this is a question or not. They said, hold on a second. When I got my cyber role during my interview, I forgot the A in CIA triad.
that's okay.
That's awesome.
That's funny.
It
But
happens,
like
man.
if I'm interviewing someone, like I always give allowances. Not everybody does this, but if I'm interviewing you, if me personally, I'm interviewing you, people get nervous and you forget stuff sometimes. It
Yeah.
happens. But that's okay. How you react is going to tell me a lot about you. But if you don't remember, that's okay. We'll still have plenty to talk about. And I always start with easy questions about you just to kind of warm you up so you get
Yes.
more comfortable. That's just me, my preference. So if you go into an interview and they just come right off the gate, you're coming in hot with like these technical questions, that's going to be nerve wracking for anybody, myself included. So don't beat yourself up.
Here's another one. He says, "Kudos to you GRC folks. That side of the house is rough to
Yes.
me." Yeah, I mean, Rob's not a GRC guy. That's me mostly, but yeah,
Oh, I've
it's
done it.
not the hard part is dealing with people. To be honest with you, it's not super technical to do GRC. I mean, it can be. It depends on the role. Sometimes, but the difficult part is dealing with different, being able to speak each other, all the languages of the each department. You got to speak technically to technical people, you got to speak to the managers in a certain way, and you've got to speak to the C-level execs in a certain way, and you've got to be able to go from one to another, and a lot of times you got to deal with difficult people, including some of your own peers sometimes. So let me see, somebody said, you're creating a situation where he can't have where you can't have enough credentials. Okay, I think I'm reading the last part of your comment here. It says, okay, how do you get experience at a young age? Okay, that is a freaking awesome question. That's a difficult um paradox. How do you get experience at a young age? Chicken or the egg problem. Rob, do you have any suggestions on that?
Yeah, personal projects. People do it all the time. Build your portfolio. What that means is go learn something and then put it out in a way that's publicly accessible. So go learn something about Docker containers and put it in your own public GitHub repository. And over time, you'll have this collection. And then when people are going to interview you, you can be like, "Yeah, take a look at my repository. I have a tool just for that." What that problem that you talked about, like that is one way that you can show you have experience. Another way is you can do volunteer work. So sometimes, especially like county hospitals, they are always in need for qualified IT people, always, and even cybersecurity people,
Yes.
because it is a brutal environment. Obviously, especially county hospitals where a lot of activity is happening. So if you go and you volunteer on the weekends, for example, you can use that and leverage it as a resume builder, as experience. Absolutely can. Schools as well. You can volunteer at schools. So look for volunteer stuff. And then finally, like sometimes you can have a job. Like I had a job at a vet clinic, and I was able to put the data entry as qualified experience towards an IT job. So those are things that you can do and look at it from that perspective. Otherwise, you're gonna have to find a job, where you can do something. And it could be a help desk job. It could be anything. Just start at a job and then look for opportunities to grow. And I mean, that's what Bruce was talking about earlier. He started in SOC and he moved into SIM engineering, and GRC and now cloud architect. So
Actually, my start, remember, I started as a freaking glorified security guard. I was protecting planes. Like
yeah.
I was protecting planes, man, arguing with Marines and shit. That was my job. So I that's where I started. And how did I go from having no experience as I did a transfer. I did a lateral change. Like if you work in Walmart, think about it like this. You work in Walmart. Walmart has probably one of the best IT departments in the world. Why don't you try to talk to the IT guys who work in Walmart, right? They're there. Um, See if you can make a lateral change within Walmart. See if you can make a lateral change if you work for Amazon. You're doing packages. Amazon has one of the best, most complete, dopest IT departments on planet Earth. No exaggeration. AWS. They're the guys that that's their baby. You could probably make a lateral change from there. I'm not saying it's not going to be some work on your part, like you have to do projects and things like that. But I made a lateral change within the United States Air Force, so that's one thing you can do. Like Rob was saying, do projects. That works. In this recent job I got to transfer to do more cloud stuff from GRC now going to cloud. So one of the things I talked about and I was able to talk about fluently is because I was doing projects on AWS. Um, and I was so quick with it because I'd already done it. I was doing some of that stuff. Now they did ask me questions that in another interview I didn't get the job, and I was kind of shooting above my weight. Was I was trying to get a Kubernetes job, and I had no idea how complex Kubernetes was, but I did research it for like a week, and I was able to speak on it, so I didn't do too bad with the resume. I mean, with the interview, but I didn't get the job, but that didn't stop me. It taught me because when he was asking those questions, I was like, okay, I see I'm weak on these areas. And then I went and studied that stuff, start messing around with the tools and that, and it helped. It strengthened me for the next interview. The next interview was so easy to me that the knowledge that I gained from just that in failing the last interview where I was really going for it, the next interview was easy. So don't give up. And there is hope for you, whether you work in if you're working in education. They have, if you want to do GRC in education, they have something called FERPA. That's a GRC for educators. So there's hope. Like if you're going to the hospital, like Rob mentioned, there's so many different things you can do. Okay, let me see. I got some other questions popping up here. Let me see here. Somebody said, hi, if I'm a lawyer and I want to focus on GRC, what's the best roadmap to help me to combine those two? Well,
Ooh.
that's a good one. You got something on that one?
No, but I think this is where we can use Chat GPT.
Okay, you ChatGPT. Let me go off the head here. So lawyers. So here's something interesting that a lot of folks don't know. GRC is steeped in a lot of law. So when we're implementing standards and frameworks, um, we're pulling from different laws. And I'll give you an example. So in with the government, we do a couple things: NIST 800 Risk Management Framework and NIST Cybersecurity Framework, right? Well, those pull from a law called FISMA Act of 2014 and FISMA Act of 2002. I don't have to know that stuff verbatim, right? So you actually have an advantage as a lawyer where you're going super deep into the law. All I have to know is what the organization has to do to meet that law. And normally you have something called a standard, and then they create a policy based off of that standard that's based off of the law. So as a lawyer, if you're going to have to get, first of all, you're going to have to learn the fundamentals of information technology. You're going to have to take time to do just like me and Rob have done, which is to get your hands dirty, start installing systems. You got to understand the basics of information technology. That way, you know how to protect it legally. You know how to make it compliant with the laws.
Yeah, so just to summarize what you said, if you're a lawyer, leverage those legal skills. I think that's a great natural fit for GRC.
Yes.
Learn the language of cybersecurity frameworks.
Yep.
So CSF, NIST 800-53, ISO 27001, SOC 2, HIPAA, all of that. And then build technical literacy, and get your certifications. And I think that's going to be a
That's it.
great way to get into GRC. And then talk to people too, network.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a whole bunch of folks who are on the compliance side of the house, GRC people, are on YouTube who put out free stuff. Not just myself, there's tons of other awesome creators out there who just put stuff out for the hell of it and to teach people. So watch a lot of those guys, and you'll start to get an idea of how things like COBIT and ISO 27001 and PCI DSS, those actually are compliance frameworks that are built off of laws. They're pulling from actual laws. And then it's a way for the organization to comply with those laws. Compliance. That's what it's the name of the game. It's all based off of laws. Okay, let me see if I got some other questions here. Ones that I can answer. I can't answer this one. Somebody said, since you stated NIST 800, any thoughts on 800 171 and CMMC? I've got a little. I don't. It's not my. It's not what I do. I do know that those are based off of um, organizations that work with the Department of Defense, and they don't have a federal system, but they provide to the federal government. So they have to be compliant with something called NIST 800 171. But that's I don't really I know that it pulls from NIST 800, but I'm not sure what else to say about it. I haven't really studied that deep on it. Okay, I got some other questions. Hey, Rookie, thank you for that $10. I appreciate you. Larry always has great questions. Let me see. Wow, Bruce, did you piss off Google? No notifications. Streams not coming after multiple. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what happened, but I did put out a notification for this one. Let me see. Other questions. I got to integrate this better with TikTok so you guys can see people's questions. I got a whole bunch of stuff going on over here. Somebody said, I'm more physical, but I feel that there has to be a flow. I went from help desk to system admin to system engineering to cyber. Okay, that's your path. Yeah,
That's a
so
good
mine
path.
was similar to that.
Yeah.
Mine was similar to that. Did you do help desk first, Rob?
So help desk was sprinkled into everything. So naturally with IT desktop management, help desk becomes part of the duty that you absorb. So
Right, right,
I
right.
wasn't specifically help desk is my point.
Okay. Let me see. Somebody else says, I'm currently in GRC looking to make a transition to cloud, but worried about AI.
No.
I don't,
Learn
I would,
learn AI.
yeah, I wouldn't say you should. I don't think you should worry. So here's what's crazy is the reason why I wanted to do cloud is because of AI. So I was so obsessed with AI that I started deep diving into it. But then I realized the infrastructure around AI was cloud, because a lot of those guys are using cloud to make it accessible to many other people. So I was like, okay, I think I need to learn cloud. I really got to go deeper into it. So I started going deeper into it, and lo and behold, like every large cloud provider is starting to integrate LLMs and all kinds of different AI tools. So learn AI as well. I mean, that shouldn't. I don't.
So
If you're. Oh, go ahead, Rob.
yeah, just to comment on that one briefly, AI is not going to take over cloud engineering or architects. I don't see that happening because it's too big and complex as a field, and AI is just not there. What I would suggest is learn to use AI to help you learn cloud better, and you're much more likely to have a smoother transition.
Absolutely, absolutely. Somebody said I totally disagree.
That's okay.
That's all right. Okay, I got another one here. Somebody said from Security Plus certs to GRC hands-on projects. Can Can you give jobs as okay? This is kind of mixed up sentence. Can you give job as a can you get okay? You must mean get. Can you get a job as a cybersecurity GRC person? So if you're saying, let me see if I can translate what you're saying. You're saying if you have a security plus and you've done hands-on GRC projects, can you get a job in? I would okay. Look, listen. The best way for you to do this is to start off from IT basics. Go for a field tech engineer job, a field tech, a IT field tech job, or a customer support technical job. Or if you're coming from a field where you're not doing any IT, like you got to start off. You've got to start from the bottom. You've got to start where you are. Um, it doesn't. Cybersecurity is not an entry level position. GRC work is not. It's not GRC. It's not entry level. That said, I do know people who have gotten in without it, but they usually have some kind of edge. Like there's a dude out there that I talked to, I had an interview with named Tech Woke. Awesome guy, Chris. So Chris, he wasn't IT, didn't do technical stuff. He didn't start off, but he did okay. So he has several things in his favor. Number one, he lives on the East Coast, which is has so many IT jobs. Number one, so many GRC jobs. He also had a master's degree in information technology. Okay, he also had a clearance. He had a clearance, and the way he got the clearance was to work a physical security job. He had all these different things, and then he was able to get the GRC position because he had a clearance. He had a master's degree. And he also had a security plus. So he got all. It's like he was strategic. He knew that if he did all these things, it would make it easier for him to get in the job, and he did. And now he's one of the biggest. If you look on that guy's blowing up right now, like he's one of the biggest influencers out there and doing GRC stuff. But for the rest of us who maybe you don't live on the East Coast, maybe you can't afford or have the time to do a master's degree, um, you know, for the rest of us, I'd say going the route of just being an IT person, getting your foot in the door first. And if you happen to have a job, maybe you make a lateral change at the job you happen to be in. If you're in the hospital, they might have an IT department. If you're in a fintech place, they might have an IT position for you. Look there first. I mean, there's other things you can do. Somebody said, Rob, what's your background?
That's such a loaded question. I don't trust it. I don't like it. Marine Corps for 11 years. I'm sorry, yeah, for 11 years. McAfee for 12 years. A few other companies in between, and now I'm at Sky High. So I started with small computer systems, moved into networking, from networking into cybersecurity, had a big life event that made me passionate about cybersecurity, and I've been doing that ever since.
That was an
Hopefully that
awesome that was an awesome summary right there.
helps. Thanks.
Uh, data analytics to GRC, is this possible? Okay, somebody said from going from data analytics to GRC, is that possible? Yeah, I mean, I think the thing about GRC is you don't actually have to be super technical. You actually don't have to be that technical to do GRC guys don't they're not they're not in the weeds. They're not implementing servers. They're not installing servers or even patches. They're not doing that kind of stuff. But they do have to have a real strong understanding of the underlying technology. I would say as a data analytics person, you probably need to get some networking under your belt because I notice a lot of data analytics people are not they're missing some parts and pieces. One of them is network engineering. I would say you need to probably get some of that. You don't have to be a Cisco, a CCNP. You could probably just basic knowledge of networking will get you your foot in the door. And if you work at a place where you're doing data analytics, I would say look and see if they have a GRC position there. You know, somebody said, let me see. All right, this guy, dude, are you trying to troll me? You're taking too long to answer that question. What? What? Okay.
Must be a Marine.
Why are you shitting on Marines, man? um, Somebody said I'm currently in SOC analyst role, looking to pivot into GRC. So going from SOC analyst work to GRC work, I can tell you this: like the hard part is going to be dealing with people. In SOC analyst roles, you don't have to deal with as many people as it as GRC does. That's the hard part. The technical part you got nailed down. Like all you got to do is apply for a GRC role on your resume or on your profile. What you want to do is focus on frameworks, standards, some of the laws, and you've had as a SOC analyst, you've been heavily exposed to those things, and you just need to focus on that on your resume, and I think you'll get it. Um, Focus on your work doing if you've done anything with policies, procedures, things like that. Those are the kinds of things that they're looking for. Oh, and the guy who's been trolling me, he says, I'm supporting the Marine Corps at MC Knock in Quantico.
Called it. Yes. Yes. The McCog.
Oh man. Funny. Okay, let me see. Other questions. Oh, okay, I got some stuff on YouTube here. Let me post a few of these. Larry. Okay.
Yes. Great question.
Okay, you go ahead and take that one, Rob. Let me see if I can grab some more questions from.
All right. So, yeah, it's going to depend on your role. Me, in my role, I deal with both technical and non-technical people often. I'm considered what you call a technical leader. In fact, that's what literally my role is, a technical leader. So part of that means from a technical perspective, what I do is I help develop new tactics, techniques, and procedures on the technical side to help provide value for our customers. On the non technical side, it's about metrics, it's about vision and strategy, and also that value conversation. And with my customers, what I do is talk about the value that they get. What are your concerns? Can we address those concerns? How do we do it? How do we do it differently? How do you measure value, etc. So yeah, it can be a very different conversation depending on who you talk to. So whenever I get invited to a call, the first question I ask for, if it's not immediately clear, is who is going to be on the call. If it's an all
Mm.
technical audience, I will cater to that appetite. We'll speak geek and we'll love it. But if there's a few non-technical people in a room full of techies, I'm going to keep it as high level as I can because technical people still understand high level, but non-technical people don't understand technical. So
Right,
that
right, right.
hopefully, Larry, that gives you some context and stuff, at least from my perspective. That's a great question.
Okay, Larry's got another one. Thanks for the $20, by the way. He says, your opinion are staying on the job for too long. Um,
Yes. Oh, what do you got? Because I've got a lot to say about this.
okay, let me change this up real quick. Um, he says, does industry purposefully keep people stuck when they don't job hop? Knowing the difficulty of changing positions, especially laterally, and maintaining the same level of pay. I don't. Oh man, I just don't.
Here's how I feel about it. So you might have a company that does that, but here's how I feel about it. If you feel stuck, it's time to go. If you're unhappy, it's time to go.
Mm,
If you can't be promoted in a way that you feel is commensurate with the effort you're putting in, it's time to go. And so if you feel happy where you are, you're happy with the pay, you're happy with the work, you're happy with the culture, and these things matter to you, is you just stay. If you're having a good time, why are you going to leave? So there's no set amount of time that you need to stay. So in general, especially when I have younger people ask me this question, what I'll say is if your goal is to maximize your salary requirements, yeah, you're going to want to bounce every few years. But you have the risk of going to a job that you hate, absolutely detest. You have a boss that is disrespectful. You have colleagues who are always stabbing you in the back. That happens. But it is part of climbing that ladder to get to a better salary. Me
Yes.
personally, I find that, salary, while it's important, it is not the most important thing for me. It's about that quality of culture and believing in the mission, feeling like I make a difference. And that's what keeps me where I am.
Yeah, that's a great point. I will say, I don't think that you said, does the industry purposely keep people stuck when they don't job hop? I don't think that they're doing it on purpose. I think that an organization has their own, the structure has its own values, its own direction that they want to go. And like Rob said, if you're not in alignment with that, if you feel stuck, that if you feel stuck, then that means maybe things are not, you're not jiving with that organization anymore. Your goals are not in no more in alignment. You're not going in parallel. You're not going in the same direction, and it's time to bounce. And it's time to bounce. Like it shouldn't. I'm not. You got to take into account what the organization is doing and the direction they're going. What's the culture like? But also, you got to take into account, like, this life is short. Like you only have a limited amount of time to live your life, and your goals matter, right? So if you feel stuck, it's time to go. If your salary, if you feel undervalued, it's time to go. Now I know that I don't want to say punish you for having, when they look at your resume and see this guy's he's been at a job for 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. It seems like they punish you for that. Because my average time at an organization is like 2 to 3 years. And so they do look at that and they ask me about it. But when they ask me, I tell them the truth. I tell them the truth. Like when I was when I was in Kuwait, they asked me, like, man, it seems like you weren't there for very long. And then the last job you weren't there. And I explained to them each one. I said, well, in Kuwait, I got a family, I got kids. I need to get back home. I just told them, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. So yeah, if you have to bounce, you have to bounce, Larry. Like, you know, and when you feel stuck, that usually means you're not in alignment anymore with the organization's values, and
Yeah,
it's time
and
to make a move.
yeah, and to further that, like I think just to simply put it, Larry, I don't know if industry is designed that way. I couldn't tell you, but I do know, like, if you have weak leaders or a company that doesn't really understand its identity, then you're
Yeah.
probably going to see that.
Yes.
It's likely to happen because, like, I've been at a really really good company. Like McAfee used to be a great company. They went to shit, but I don't know if you have to bleep that out or anything, but it used to be a great company, and people stayed there for decades because it was a great place to work. It really was. Not so much anymore. So if you're not feeling it, move on. If you're asking if the industry is purposely designed this way, I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. I think it's just weak leaders that cause the culture to become that way. That's just my personal
That's a
perspective.
great point, Rob, that you brought up. One of the things I've noticed is that I've been at many companies. I've been hopping a long time. And what I've noticed is when the company's really good, people stay there for like upwards of 10 years. The average time of them staying there is like many years. But when the company has a either weak leadership or something's going on where they're just switching things up too much or they're not doing it the right way. I mean, it's okay to change. I mean, especially in IT, we have to change. But if the culture, if they're doing it at the expense of people, what'll happen is there's a churn where people are in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And that's usually a very hard, difficult organization or department to be in because it puts so much strain on good people. The people who actually want to stay there, and then other people are leaving, and they got to take the weight of that. They got to be like Atlas and take the weight of the whole of that one department. It sucks, man. I've been that guy on both ends. I've been the guy leaving and the guy trying to hold up stuff, and it's like it's just hard to be in that situation. Okay, let me see. I got some other it's cooking over here on. Let me see.
Larry, if you work at the Marine Corps Network Operations Center with the troller, I'm sorry, maybe it's time to leave.
Uh, what? What advice would you give to someone who has specialized in IT networking?
What advice do
Specialized.
you want? I prefer Greek yogurt flavored.
If you, it depends on what your goals are. It depends on what your goals are. I would say if you're in the IT networking right now, I would say go into virtualization as much as possible. It seems like that's the direction it's all going. Integrate some
Uh,
cloud stuff into your repertoire.
so yeah, what your goals are. I agree with you, Bruce. So if you're in IT networking, like if I was in IT networking, one of my goals would be like, how do I grow? And I would naturally look at cloud. Um,
Yes.
and so I would start looking at the language of the cloud, which you're going to find there's a lot of languages, APIs. You're going to learn about containers and orchestration like Kubernetes. You're going to learn about automation tools like Terraform and Tofu and others. And so those are the things I would start looking at if I
Hmm.
wanted to grow from an IT specialist standpoint.
VPC, virtual private cloud. Somebody said, I'm currently an enterprise product designer, and I'm looking to move into cyber architect. Is that what you mean? And what's the path to get from enterprise product designer to a
Yeah.
cyber architect?
What a great question. That's a complicated one. The short version is it depends if you want to stay in design because architecture is such a broad category and nobody really knows how to talk about it accurately. In fact, I myself has misspoken about architecture just on this very stream because that's how confusing the term is in this industry. So when you say architecture coming from an enterprise product designer and you're talking about software architecture, yeah, there probably is a path there. If you're talking about network architecture, that's a longer bit of a runway. If you're talking about cybersecurity architecture, it depends on the product that you design and so on and so forth. So there's enterprise architecture, which is mostly about the business. There's solutions architecture, which is mostly about the process and the people along with the technology. And then there's your technical architects who are the product experts or the solutions experts. So there's a broad category of architects. So you got to figure out like exactly what do I want to do. So I've given you some ideas on what is out there. So now you got to pick like what do I want to do? And if you're talking about cloud architecture, it is possible. It's going to be a long runway as well because you have to show that you have some expertise. Getting the certification is a good first step. Having the product design is a really good thing to have on your resume. But you're probably going to want to have your own portfolio to show off as well.
Okay, this is a great question here. This one I get often from students. Jimmy says, just graduated with a master's in data analytics in March. Can't find a job.
Yes, data analytics is still a very small field. That is one of the fields that AI is somehow also
Absorbing.
trying to absorb. Yeah,
Eating.
so I hate to give you that perspective. It's something I read in an article. I don't know how true it is because I don't know too many people in the data analytics field. So what I would do, two things. One is continue to look for jobs with the term business analyst or business developer. These are things that leverage a data analyst background or even sales operations. These are things that leverage a data analyst background, and it's a really transferable skill. So that could expand your search a little bit. So that's one thing. The other is if you really like data analytics, take a look at being a SOC analyst as well because
Mm,
there's a lot of data analytics with the SIM tool. So you'll need to learn a little bit about what a SOC does, what a SIM does, what a SOAR does. So you'll need to get a little
yeah.
bit more technical, but I'm telling you, like that's a really good transition. Although it's a bigger uplift, you have to learn a lot more. It's a great skill set to have in your back pocket as a data analyst into that role.
Another thing would be to lean into AI because from data analytics, I
Oh
think you
yeah.
could get into machine learning. I mean, that would be pretty hard. I mean, it's but you could do it. I mean, it's kind of in line with what you do. All right, let me see here. More more questions, more questions. Nope, I already read that one. Let me see. Thank you for that. Great questions, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for watching. Um, this troll dude asked so many questions.
I love it.
I don't know if he's a troll or not. But some of the questions are kind of. This is the guy who said I totally disagree, and then he asked, "What's your background?" And he says, "I'm currently a cloud architect at Deloitte. AI is taking over." He says, "What's
Is that JP?
your?" I I don't know.
JP, is that you?
uh, great stuff. Let me see. Just graduated with a bachelor. I get this question over and over again. Just graduated with a bachelor's in cybersecurity management and policy in May. Well, congratulations. Says no job yet. Says what should I do next? Man, get as much hands-on as possible. In the beginning of this, Rob mentioned a couple things. He mentioned building like a portfolio on GitHub. That's one of the things you can do. But if it's not even necessarily developing software. Like you don't have to on there. You could do some cloud projects. You just want to get some hands on. And then any kind of hands on you did in school, put that on there too. Any kind of projects you did in school, because the market is really looking for experience. Book knowledge is great. I'm not saying to throw away your resume or what your experience, your degree, or anything like that. But it's just they're really looking for experience. That said, you can get the experience. Especially if you're still in school. Like for those of you who are still in school or have some connection with school, try to do like a student work program, or try to do like a internship or an apprenticeship. Anything where you can actually get in the field and work. Anything where you can actually get your hands dirty and build networks, fix computers, image computers, anything like that. Let me see here. Do you think certs? Okay. Do you think certs and hands-on projects taking over college degrees?
Ooh, what a great question. I personally prefer hands-on projects over degrees, but there is a place where degrees bring value. And obviously, if you get a degree, you put a lot of hard work and effort to get in that, and that shouldn't be discounted at all. Um, Having said that, if you're going for a hands-on job, well, if you have
Gotta be
hands-on
hands-on.
skills, it kind of translates directly. If you have a college degree going for a hands-on job, it doesn't really translate directly. It doesn't mean you're not qualified. It just means I might prefer someone who already has hands-on. If you're going for something that's a little less hands-on, but like let's say a SOC analyst, you don't have to be hands on. It certainly helps, but this is where a college degree might be more valuable because of lateral thinking abilities. So, you got to kind of fill out like what's the focus of the job. If it's purely hands on technical and like day in, day out, you're just hammering nails, metaphorically, that means it's really technical. That I would say people might prefer hands on approach. I would. But if you're going for something that's a little bit more analytical, like GRC or SOC analyst or something like that, you may need to have a technical background, but not as much hands on.
Exactly. Bottom line is get some hands on. If you're in school, if you're in college, or you just got a degree, you have a job, experience is king. Um, I'm not taking anything away from your degree. It's good that you have a degree. You're so competitive, but you got to get the hands on in there any way you can. Let me see. Somebody said I'm 45. I am trying to switch careers. I'm trying to switch careers. Should I go AWS or cybersecurity? Any advice? Well, I would want to know like what career background you're coming from, because that's going to help me to help you. I need to know where you are coming from. I need more context. Where are you coming from and where are you trying to go to? Because I would say it's I came into this field kind of late too. And I would say that it's a humbling experience. I talked to a guy who was coming from HVAC in his 40s, and he's wanting to do cybersecurity. And I told him honestly, man, you're gonna have to swallow your pride. Number one, HVAC is super freaking hard, so you could totally learn this stuff. I mean, you could totally learn this stuff, but it's gonna take time and effort on your part, and you as a person who's been doing HVAC or whatever for 10, 15 years or whatever, you've mastered that. And now you're going to come into a field where you're a junior and you're going to be learning from people who are 25 who's been doing it for 10 years or 5 years already or whatever the case may be. You got to first of all swallow your pride. I'm not saying you can't do it. Absolutely not saying you can't do it, but there's going to be a learning curve because you're going to have to start from the bottom. You're going to have to learn the fundamentals of a career path that gets very deep. Somebody said, oh, they have a chemistry degree. Do you did chemistry? So do you have a job in chemistry? I mean, one
Look,
of the things you might want to consider. Go ahead, Rob.
I'll tell you this: like I've worked with a lot of people who did not have anything to do with IT before they got into IT. Bruce is one of them.
Yeah,
Chemistry degree, the PE degree, basket weaving does not matter. The fact of the matter is you have aptitude. And if you have curiosity and you have like the will and the desire to get into IT, you can do it. If you're willing to put in the work, you can do it. If you're willing to go meet people and talk to people, you can do it. So don't let like if you're being held up because you're like I have a chemistry degree, I don't think anybody would find that, really attractive for a role. Don't let that hold you up because what your degree tells me is that one, you have aptitude, two, you can finish something, right, and have something
yeah,
tangible and an outcome, and three is that you're educated. You might have a systematic approach to solving problems. I find that highly attractive for hiring purposes. Depending on the role, I might have different preferences for that specific role, but don't let it hold you up is my point.
absolutely. Like, and what one thing I'll reiterate is I started as a glorified security guard who tried to suppress Marines anytime I could. That was my job. So I was a I was a I was an MP in the Air Force, and I did that for 5 years. And then I was like, I want to do computers, and I did it. So if I can do it, you can do it. Now I was hungry. I asked questions. I worked my ass off. I over time built this up. I mean, you're in chem. You've got chemistry. Like you could build an app to help chemists or something.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
all kinds of stuff that normal people who have nothing to do with chemistry no. So there's so many things you could do. Like I would definitely do AI if I were you.
Yeah, the
um
other point I wanted to make there is some of the smartest people I know in this industry have a, a, a diverse background that has nothing to
yes,
do with IT. So don't give up.
absolutely. Okay, I got some other questions here. Let me drop this. Wait, let me start. I'll start with this one. um Larry says, is everyone is adopting AI to the point where AI adoption is probably the most used buzzword of 25 tech. If I went to level up, quote unquote, and add AI relatable skills to my resume, where do I start? Great question.
You know, Larry, you have the some of the best questions,
He does.
and I really appreciate that. So let me do this. Let me turn this around, and I'm gonna say, have you checked with Chat GPT and asked Chat GPT about this? Because that's where I would start. And but like more practical, I don't know an answer to like some really insightful question. So I think where I might start is my home lab. Like I mentioned how I built my own AI server and went through the process of training and stuff. So I would look for ways to put that into my resume, maybe as like hobbies. This is where hobbies becomes really an advantage. Like nobody cares if you play pickleball on Saturdays. Like that might be cool if you go into a place where everybody plays pickleball, but as hobbies, like I want to showcase like I love technology. I've got my own AI server, I've got my own cyber range, like I've got all these cool things and they contribute to my resume. So that's where I might put it. Otherwise, if you use AI as a way to reduce false positives as a SOC analyst, let's say, or you use it as a way to, build reports that are much more accurate, like things that are measurable, yeah, you might be able to add those, but I don't know of any like specific ways to do that yet. So I would go to ask ChatGPT.
So this is a good one, Larry. So I did ask ChatGPT before I started this whole journey, and it told me to build on the skills I already had, which was mostly GRC. It looked through my whole resume and said, "Look, this is where you would excel." It mentioned AI ethics, and it mentioned AI for me. Right, it's going to be different for you when you plug it in there. Um, and it also mentioned AI doing cybersecurity and AI. But one thing it left out is cloud, because what as soon as I start putting stuff for cloud and learning cloud, um, and putting it on my profile, is when I start getting all kinds of contacts and calls and interviews. Uh, the reason why I add cloud to what you just said, adopting cloud, is that cloud the cloud that all of us are using, most of us, unless we're smart enough to build our own in our house, like Rob does, is the one that's online. The one that's online, Chat GPT, Gemini, all these other one, Opus, all those are in the cloud. That's how they're allowing us to access. So one thing you could do is put that on your, like, learn it, of course, and put that on your resume, and you'll get calls. Let me see. Next one from Larry. He says, "Nope. Uh, don't work at a knock with the marine troller." Okay. Let me see if there's other stuff here. And we're gonna close this one out, guys. We've been talking for about an hour and a half, I think, almost 2 hours. But I'll take a couple more questions.
Didn't even
Somebody
feel
said, "This is a good one." Was that Rob?
didn't even feel like it.
No, I didn't. This was great, man. Somebody said, "Do you have a program that I can follow to get hands on?" Um, I Rob, you should really make one, man. No, seriously, dude, I would totally buy that. Dude, I would totally
I
freaking buy that. Especially your AI server, man. I would totally.
I will I will look at that. I will look at that because it's something I want to do. At work, this is since my Marine Corps days, I have developed programs to help people become more technically proficient. And one of the most satisfying things is like when people start off and they're clueless and it just doesn't make sense, but through repetition and explanation and a systematic approach, you get better and better and better until you're like you feel I'm an expert. I know karate now, kind
Right.
of like
I know
a
Kung
big
Fu.
I know kung fu exactly. So yeah, I am looking at it, but like those take a little bit of time, so I have to figure out a way to make it, packageable in a digital format, and I just don't know how to do that yet.
Bro, if you need help, man, I'm
Okay,
here for
let's
it, man.
collab.
I'm here for it. So I'm working on something right now, a GRC role. If you're interested in GRC, I'm working on something to walk you through. It's taking me a while because I'm breaking it up into bite-sized pieces. I'm learning from other courses and stuff I've created, and I want to do something that's a little bit more digestible. That's going to give you something when you walk away from it. I'm really close to getting it done, but it's GRC stuff with some hands-on doing GRC stuff. And I'll let you guys know. I'll keep you guys on top of that one.
Yeah, if I were to put out a program, what kind of things would you be interested in learning? I would like to hear from
Oh.
you guys.
Oh man, yeah, you guys go ahead and think about that. For me, Rob, man, like when you talk about your server that you have in your house, I'd be interested. I'm actually
Oh,
want to do that so bad. But
yes.
I'm going at some point. I'm going to, right. I'm going to buy all the stuff that I need, all the gear. I know I need like a Nvidia card or something equivalent to that. I'm kind of putting it together of what I need. Like right now, what I've done is I did a LM Studio and downloaded, but I immediately realized I don't have the GPUs for it. So I'm like, damn, okay, I need to do something a little bit bigger because I want something at least the equivalent of like a Chat GPT 4 or something. or ChatGPT 3, like at least something that is usable where I can put it can listen to me or stuff like that. I would totally pay for something like that. A walkthrough. Here's how you do it. Here's the equipment you need. Here's the prerequisites. Here's what you need to know. Here's all the things, and then walk me through step by step how to do it. I would pay for that for sure. And I know
I,
there's a couple. Chuck Network has something where he's walking people through it, and there's a couple other dudes online who
yeah,
are walking people
yeah.
through
Network
that.
Chuck. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
funny because like what you're describing, I literally do this at work and for friends that are local and go help them put up their labs. So yeah, I think that's doable.
and the reason why I would pay for something like that is because I realize you put a lot of time into it. Like if you're gonna do something like that, you're gonna spend all this time working on it and spoon feeding people to do this. That took you a lot of time and effort to do it. So I would gladly donate. Um, for my own. I mean, for me, I see it as an investment in myself that I would invest in that to better my own and then in the end, I have my own freaking AI server in my house where somebody's not harvesting my information
Hmm.
on open AI or wherever, you know?
Yep.
So yeah, I would totally pay for that, man. You guys, what do you guys think about that? Like, man, that would be super exciting. Okay, I've got a whole bunch of other folks chiming in here, and I'm gonna speed run through some of these. Um, Let me see. Okay, here's one from Larry. He says, opinion on going overseas. What's your opinion on going overseas job opportunities besides the potential less than ideal conditions in different cultures? What are the work challenges in working overseas if pay is a plus?
So I know you have a lot to say on that.
I do. So yeah, it is difficult on your family. If you have kids, I had two little kids when I did it, and my man Trey, man, he said don't do it, man. He said when I told him, oh man, I'm gonna go overseas. I got this job as a SOC analyst, and he says, man, you know how crazy your wife is. You're gonna leave your kids with your crazy ass wife. Um, I probably shouldn't say that on here, but anyway, yeah, so that was a conversation we had. He didn't say those words. I just added that stuff, ad lib. But he said, "Man, don't do it, man. You got two little kids. Don't do it." And he was absolutely right. So when I went there, it was hard on my kids when I did that, and I would say unless your like make sure your family is okay, before you go do something like that. I was over there for like a year and a half or something. And the conditions, it depends on the country. Like we were in it's pretty harsh when we were there, pretty harsh Sharia law, pretty restrictive environment. Um, it's hard on your family if you have one. Um, yeah, I mean, it was great to learn. I got to do this incredible shift in my career and learn all these awesome things, but it was definitely difficult on my family. There were some guys who brought their family, their wife, they would bring their wife there and stuff, and they would have to make their own accommodations to do some of that. So, yeah, it can be difficult. Um Other things, if you're trying to level up with like getting to six figures as a contractor, it's a very quick way to do it. If you're trying to make a huge transition in your career, I went from GRC to doing SOC analyst work, which led me to doing SEAM engineering. Um, and financially, my family's benefited off of that sacrifice that we all made together. I was able to pay off a bunch of bills because another benefit is that you get tax free if you're working for the government. It was tax free up to I think it's up to like $98,000 or something. That was something that was cool. I got to travel when I was there. You could travel any countries that are close there. People would go to Dubai or go to countries that were close to wherever we were. And that's not the only country. You don't have to go to the Middle East. There's other countries you can go to. There's pluses and minuses. Just make sure you measure them all. If you're a single guy, man, it's gonna be incredible if you're a single guy. So, and I think that's about it, guys. I'm gonna close this one out. We've been talking for about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Have any closing last words, Rob, for everybody?
Yeah. I really appreciate your guys' interaction. Thanks for showing up and hanging with us as we talk through these things. I really love this community. And Bruce, I'm always happy to come back as a guest. I really enjoy catching up, even in this forum here. Thanks for having me today.
Man, thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. To be honest, man, I was so afraid to reach out to you, man. I was like, fuck, I don't. Because in my mind, you're like on this, pedestal, which is crazy to say, but like I was like, fuck, I don't know if Rob, so and then I was trying to do cloud, so I was reached out to you and started asking questions, and then that's kind of how it started. So man, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you for sharing this community with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm dead serious, man. If you actually do some kind of training or something, man, I'm down for whatever you want to do. Like whatever way, shape, or form you want to do it, I'm down with it.
Yeah, I'll give that some thought. Right now, what I'm thinking is maybe I'll use this, like you and whoever else wants to be part of the beta testers. Maybe that's how I'll do that, kind of proof it out before I go to a sold package.
Okay. I've got like a community where we're right now it's only like 40, maybe 40 people, 30 people there who are hungry. So you could beta test the hell out of it on there, and we can all like, it's kind of a private little community. I mean, it's not private, anybody can join it, but it's only like right now it's only 30 people, so I'm sure those guys will enjoy that.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, all right, guys. See you later, guys. I'm gonna go eat something. I'm freaking starving. We gotta go.
All right.
All right,
Happy
Rob.
weekend.
Thanks, man.
All right. Bye bye.
Later.